2012, I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life by going to college for 3D animation and design. And when I graduated in 2015, I was stuck with a bunch of empty promises, predatory loans totaling of about $65,000. And I don't want you to make the same mistake that I did. When I was just entering high school, I really had no clue what I wanted to do with life. I was heading into what many considered to be a last chance school. I didn't necessarily see it that way, but for a lot of people, charter schools were just considered like, you failed at public school, you're going here. For me, this school was my chance to escape the horrid public school system that we had here that did not care about students. They just kind of wanted to churn and burn and get us all out. When I was accepted into the school, I was given my choice of electives. One that drew me in instantly was animation and 3D modeling. The other was one that my parents kind of forced me to take, which was PC repair. Both of these would really change my life over the next 4 years. So both are important to my story. When I started animation, I quickly got better and better at the apps that we were given. At the time, we were using Rhino or AutoCAD if we wanted to. I never used AutoCAD. I stuck with Rhino mainly. I started excelling in Rhino, and my teacher started to notice. And one day, he brought me a big yellow book. And that big yellow book was the 3ds Max Bible. He wanted me to move on to another app that he hadn't really used because he was an architectural teacher from the start. The animation program was still very new at this school, and it was something that they wanted to see what we could do and see where we could push and kind of build a curriculum off of that. Fast forward a couple of years, I had competed multiple times in Skills USA animation at the state level, and I lost every single time, except for like one third place win. My senior year, I wasn't really sure I wanted to compete again. I was burnt out from losing. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do anymore. I was kind of losing my drive with everything. And as part of the tech program that I was in, that summer I was installing the new applications that we purchased because we had to buy a new license every year. And I noticed that there was an application in the list of apps that we were paying for, which was the entire Autodesk Creative Suite, called Maya. And so I installed that and decided that I was going to try to learn this application this year. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really know what it was. I just knew it was like a contender with 3ds Max. On top of this, I also installed Mudbox, which was another tool that was going to be really important to me growing as an artist in this final year of high school. All of this is important because this 1 year led me to taking first place in the state at Skills USA. I was able to compete, feel good about competing, and win. And then I was able to go on to the national competition in Kansas City, where I took third place. This also all led to the counselors at my school fighting to get us all to pick and start applying for colleges. And this entire thing stressed me out because I had never dealt with this kind of money before that was just being written off as like future proofing and a good expense. And, needed for a successful life. I chose a local community college because I figured it was going to be the best way to not spend a whole lot of money, but also get the education that I wanted. And I also knew that I could get out of this with very little debt. Only problem is that the year that I decided to go, they canceled the animation program at that college. So I was kind of without luck there. My only other option at that point was state college or some out-of-state school. The state college at the time, their program wasn't advertised very well. I didn't really know a lot about it. I didn't get a chance to learn about it. I regret not doing that because it probably would have helped a lot more. My partner, though, from Skills USA had decided that he was going to go to a school for writing because he was a writer. And he chose Fullsail University. And he's like, oh, they have an animation program. You could do online and blah, blah, blah. And at this time, I was already going into my IT career, so it was important to me to have something that was going to be flexible, and I obviously couldn't just pack up and move to Florida. So I looked at Fullsail. Things were actually, they seemed decently priced. I mean, for college, decently priced was $48,000. But to me, I saw it as like, I'll get a low interest loan and I'll just pay it off. Fullsail did give me some sort of grant that I think saved me $10,000. Not really sure. I didn't qualify for assistance. I didn't qualify for really anything because my family made just too much money at the time. So I had to take the loans out on my own. It was a situation that I kept writing off as it's just me investing in myself. It's just me getting a good car or something like that I'm going to pay off in, 8 years, which is what they promise you. That just wasn't the case. Back then, which was 2011. There wasn't really, it was kind of the only realistic way was to go to school to learn what I was doing. YouTube was just starting to become relevant, but it was nowhere near where it is now. So I worked with the school to figure out how to pay this like monstrosity of a bill. They lied to me, plain and simple. I was told back and forth that it was a bad idea to do government-sponsored loans because the interest would fluctuate and I could eventually really damage myself by having that. And being a kid just out of high school who didn't get a financial education because the school system fails in that aspect, as well as, you know, my family didn't really educate me on that because they were kind of in the dark on it. They didn't really know that college was the way it is now. So I can't really blame anyone but the general system, I guess, so to speak. But I didn't know better. They convinced me that I needed to do 4 private loans instead of 1 loan because, you know, each quarter or whatever. So I got my first loan through a credit union, which seemed like the better idea. And it was. It absolutely was. However, when I went to take out my second loan, the credit union said, no, sorry. We no longer give out loans to that school because they don't pass our accreditation check, which should have been a big red flag for me. But it wasn't because I didn't necessarily understand it. So I called Fullsail and I was like, hey, I can't get a loan out through my bank. They're like, oh, no problem. Just go to Sally Mae. They'll take care of you. I can only assume that school was getting kickbacks from the private lenders. But lo and behold, I was approved for the last $36K that I needed. And I was doing online school because I worked for a hospital. I was an IT person at a hospital. And I thought to myself that, you know, I could work full time, do school. It's going to suck for 4 years or 3 years because it was an accelerated program. But I can get through it. I'm making money. I'll have a career. I could pay this off. No big deal. I spent the next 3 years in Fullsail's accelerated program, learning a little bit, but never enough. Thankfully, I knew on campus was kind of the same. I wasn't missing anything. The classes were all still only a month long, which is not enough time to learn anything, especially when you're talking about trying to learn an entire plethora of applications. I think they gave us like 7 apps to learn, which is impossible in that amount of time. So in a sense, everyone that goes to that school is technically missing out. When I graduated, we made a special trip to Florida where they put on this big old production for graduation. The president of the school didn't even attend. And instead they played a pre-recorded video of him saying, you know, congrats and blah, blah, blah. I went back to look at past Fullsail graduations. It's the same damn video every single year. The president doesn't show up at all. So no one from upper anything really shows up to this graduation. There's a couple of teachers who you only met for a month, so you have no real attachment to them. You go shake their hand and that's it. And it felt so fake and it felt so wrong. It just felt like the school didn't care. To me, the experience was very much they want you in, they want you out. And any of the promises they made to get you to sign in and sign up for that school faded away as soon as you took that piece of paper and you left. I'm sure some people will light up the comments and say, oh, you chose Fullsail, you should have chosen a different school. The reality is most art schools at this point are pretty much predatory. I haven't really come across one that I didn't find some sort of weird predatory practice behind. And to people who say I didn't apply myself, I did apply myself. I tried very hard in that school because I wanted to learn, I wanted to get into the industry, I wanted to do things. And I felt so burnt out and fried leaving that place that I didn't want to do anything anymore. I felt like everything was so out of reach. I had all of these applications that were going to expire. They were on an operating system I hated because they make you use Apple. I just didn't really know where to go or what to do from this point. But whatever the excuse is to say that I did something wrong, I really don't care. That school didn't tell me that by the time I graduated, I would owe almost $60,000 in debt, which I'm still paying to this day. In 2024, I felt cheated, and I will remember that forever. I do not think college is necessary anymore for most fields, but especially art. We live in a world where near 100% of this information is literally at your fingertips, and I wish this was the case when I was younger. I think if you can walk away with zero debt, or if you can find a local, cheaper school, those are perfectly good options. But you need to be careful where you choose to go. college nowadays is so predatory. The loans will destroy you financially for years if you ever get them paid off. And it just comes down to, when you really look at these schools, I looked at Fullsail, for instance. I think it was a couple months ago. They offered degrees now for esports broadcasting. It was something like $38,000 to learn how to broadcast for esports. And it's just mind-blowing to me. I can't see how anyone would be like, that I need to go to school for that. And it's crazy to me just to think that that degree costs almost as much as mine, if not more. But really the important thing here is to remember you need to research your school. You need to spend some time making sure that you're going to be able to do this. And if you're going to college full-time, do not spend the money that I spent. Do not go to one of these fancy art schools that give you endless promises of career placement, because it's just all going to come. It's just none of it's going to come true. I remember I got phone calls for the first month after I left school asking how I was doing and what part of the industry I was working in. And I would always tell them I'm working in IT. I don't have a job in the industry yet because I don't even know where I can apply. I don't have any resources for that. They would tell me they'd get me resources. They never would. And until the phone calls just stopped because they just didn't care. I wasn't going to be a thing that they could use to advertise their placement. They could not use me as, this student went here. They work for this company now. That it was just so insulting. And it was so sad to go through that. And I don't want anyone else to have to experience that before. I don't personally think Fullsail is a good school. They may have good teachers and they may have good staff, but Fullsail at its core is an accelerated college that just wants to get people in and push them out, much like any other art school now that offers any remote form of online learning. None of these are sponsors or they're affiliated with me by any means. They're just good resources for people to learn. First off, YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. There's so much information here. There are so many creators who make content and tutorials every single day, much like this channel. It's really a good place to start. I have learned so much off of YouTube throughout my years that I can easily say that YouTube has been far better than the degree that I received from Fullsail University, which is sad. It's very sad because I pay, $14 a month for YouTube, ad-free. But say you can't find what you need on YouTube. Say you get stuck, or say you need something a little bit more in depth. CGMA, CG Masters Academy, is a great option. It can be kind of pricey, but you get to pick and choose your classes, and even up to your instructor. And you can learn things that are skills you're either lacking on or things that you're trying to learn that maybe you're not finding enough information on. Another great resource is honestly bookstores. Bookstores carry a lot of manuals and textbooks based on applications that you're using. Blender for Dummies is a book I see at Barnes & Noble all the time. I've even bought Maya books at Barnes & Noble in the past. I haven't bought a book in a long time just because I feel like I don't need them anymore. But if you prefer having a physical book in your hand, it's a great option. And I know all this sounds great, but there's still one thing college holds over self-learning, and that is the idea and concept of forced discipline. Of course, if you're paying $60,000, you would want to try to do your assignments and get a good grade because you don't want to, just lose that money. But one of the things you will have to develop if you decide to go down the self-taught route is the self-discipline. I've struggled with it for many years. It's a very difficult thing to actually build on and grow. So I understand that this is something that's probably not the most comfortable thing to just jump into, but keeping yourself out of crushing debt is a much better idea. I have so many channels on YouTube that I look to when I need a solution to a problem that I can't fix. And just to reiterate, I can honestly say that over the past 2 years, I have learned more from YouTube than I ever did in college. And I really hope that puts things into perspective for you, especially if you're confused on what school you should go to or how you should go through this route. Keep in mind, too, I'm not saying don't go to college for something that requires it. Obviously, if you need to go into nursing, lawyer, whatever the commonly required education is, obviously go for that. You're not going to be able to learn that without college, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I guess I understand it for certain cases. Just make sure that if you choose to go to college for art, you have some form of backup. You have some form of something that can pay your bill when you get out of school, and try not to accumulate that much of a bill. It's so detrimental to you succeeding in life to not do that. If college is something that you want/need in your life, go for it. Just be smart about where you end up going. I gave into pressure from counselors and teachers telling me I needed to go to college to succeed. And honestly, I've been working in IT for 15 years now with 0 degree in IT. I never got any formal education in IT, and I make pretty good money now. I do pretty good. And my degree was never called into question at these jobs. I've just interviewed and gotten the jobs. College may not be needed anymore for a variety of jobs, and I think it's time we start to realize that. But it's especially, in my opinion, not needed for animation or computer graphics. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you were struggling with the idea of going to college or self-teaching, that I was able to help you in some way. And if you have questions, leave me a comment. I try to respond to every single comment I get on videos. I know someday that won't be possible, but for now, it's a good time to get and pick my brain. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.